Let's go to Canberra now and dip into the world of Labor politics with Victorian Labor Senator Kimberly Kitching. Thanks for joining us, Kimberly.
Thank you for having me on, Chris.
It must be a pretty gruesome day down there. You've got colleagues and enemies and factional friends and foes decapitating each other and sending text messages. What's the mood like in the Federal Labor caucus?
Look, I think that obviously there were people who were very taken aback by the 60 Minutes show on Sunday night. But I think that anyone who is genuine about wanting to reform the party is welcoming the review and is looking forward to that review cleaning up the Victorian branch.
Yeah, I think the frank insights we got through hidden cameras and text messages and the like shed a light on this. We got inside things in a way we haven't before. The idea of group membership sign-ups where people are paid for, with Adam Somyurek being shown to allegedly do that, is a worry. But generally speaking, this sort of factional branch stacking is rife throughout the Labor Party across the country, isn't it? I mean, it's not a black and white issue here. It's about whether you just wander over the line somewhat.
Well, I think that what we have seen is that all memberships of all membership organisations should be genuine and consenting memberships. And I think that goes across the political spectrum. I mean, Malcolm Turnbull in his recent memoirs detailed the Great Wentworth branch stack, and he put in about 1,500 members, I think, as did Peter King, the then sitting member whom Malcolm took the seat from in what was quite a bitter pre-selection. So I think, look, we do see this. It isn't acceptable. We do want genuine members. We want consenting members. We want people who are able to contribute. And of course, Chris, what I do feel, the people I do feel for are the millions of Australians who do vote for the Australian Labor Party at elections. And I feel for our members who, they're the ones who get up early in the morning to put up bunting on election day, as you know yourself, and they contribute to policy discussion. They do a lot for political parties, and I think we want that, and we don't want that tainted by members who aren't genuine.
But there's a lot of focus now on Anthony Burns' text messages. Look, it's great reading. It's a great story. It's fascinating to see how vulgar and violent the political language is. But has he committed any crime? Wouldn't you find similar messages in the text messages of just about every political operative in the country?
Look, I don't want to comment on Anthony's, the activities, because I am aware that IBAC has launched an investigation, Operation Fortescue, and there's a police investigation. And I think it's best to leave that to those law enforcement agencies and that standing commission of inquiry. So I would leave that there, Chris. I do think that, sometimes in politics people are pretty robust. And that's partly because they're passionate and they care about issues. And, sometimes tempers rise. But I think it's, certainly you can see that sometimes in Canberra that people are very, very passionate about issues, and they do perhaps sometimes express that quite vehemently. But I think that I don't want to comment on the legality of it, of the surveillance equipment or anything, because I understand that's going to be investigated.
Yeah, we'll let them investigate that. I'm more interested in people suggesting he should disappear because of the language, which I think is strange. I'll just show you a preview of Johannes Leek's cartoon for tomorrow's Australian, because he's conjured up the images that Anthony Burns' text messages do refer to. And there's Byrne walking it down, and that's Adam Somyurek on the floor. 1 minute he's pissing in my pocket, and the next thing you know. So there you go. There's Johannes's brilliant capturing of that factional power play.
I mean, I have to say, Chris, I know I'm on Sky, but it is one segment I do look forward to on Insiders, is the cartoonists segment.
No. You look forward to that at the end of My Media show with Johannes on Monday nights.
Well, of course, that as well, Chris.
Now,
very much so.
The point here structurally, the thing that I think should worry Australian voters and supporters of the Labor Party in particular, is this is the right wing of the party sort of tearing itself apart at the moment, and the winners here will be the socialist left, federally and in Victoria. And this helps take your party further to the Green left and away from the great mainstream where elections are fought and won in this country.
Well, Chris, I was just talking about, people being passionate about ideas, and I can tell you that at our state conferences and our national conferences, there is a balance arrived at because people have the opportunity to advocate for certain positions on policy areas, and that can be very, very passionate debate, but it's voted on. It's a democratic membership. It's democratic conference. ALP conferences are actually televised. I'm not suggesting necessarily that all Australians would necessarily want to watch every moment of the ALP National Conference, but it's pretty interesting. And people are able to advocate and they are able to persuade their fellow delegates to that conference. And I think that's actually a sign of a very healthy democracy when a political party is able to engage in that way. So I don't think it's really about left or right. I think it's about the position that is arrived at for our platform, our national policy platform. And of course, parties go to elections with those platforms, and when they win, they're able to implement them. Right, and I think that is, that's what we expect.
Well, let's look to then one of the biggest issues for this country and, in fact, one of the biggest issues around the world now in global politics, and that is standing up to China. It is the right wing of the Labor Party that's been very strong on that, on your side of politics, whereas in your home state of Victoria, you've got the left-wing Premier, Daniel Andrews, actually doing a Belt and Road initiative with China, while you and your colleagues in Canberra have been strongly supportive of the government staying away from that. This is the worry, isn't it, that if you weaken the right wing of the Labor Party, we could see the whole of the Labor Party drift to that sort of pro-China stance of Daniel Andrews?
Well, I'm not sure whether the factions have in this issue. It is the Federal Labor Party's view that state governments shouldn't enter into the Belt and Road Initiative, into the Memorandum of Understanding, that it's not appropriate for state governments to do that. That is a Federal Labor view. But of course, what we've seen is very mixed messaging from the current federal Liberal government. We've had, people who've advocated for Huawei in 2013 before Tony Abbott banned them from being in the NBN. And again, then they were banned by Malcolm Turnbull from the 5G network. And we know from overseas that, in fact, the British government has looked towards Australia to see what we have done in that space. We've also had, Steve Chobo, when he was Trade Minister, entered into a Belt and Road Initiative MOU, it's limited to third-party countries. But, we have seen quite mixed messaging from the federal Liberal government about China and about the Belt and Road Initiative projects.
Just quickly, Senator, one out of left field. Do you support the fact that JobKeeper payments are currently going to clergy in the Catholic Church, Anglican Church and Jewish synagogues, as I understand it?
Look, I think that JobKeeper, if the conditions around receiving it were, that was in the legislation, I think if people meet the requirements and meet the tests to receive JobKeeper, they should receive it. I mean, we're looking at, an economy. Our economy is going to contract. I'm also aware, Chris, that the unemployment figures came out today and nearly another 230,000 Australians in the last month have lost their jobs. That is what we should be focused on, helping those Australians, because I think that, we're going to all be thinking about how we're going to help Australia advance and recover from the coronavirus.